Hey everybody, it's Craig James from the International Screenwriters Association. Occasionally I get emails from writers telling me that they just feel like they failed, they're no good at screenwriting, they're giving up, that's it. And it's frustrating for me to hear that. It really is. It kind of hurts that I don't know, I'm not offended per se, but I feel bad for the people who have these amazing stories that they're trying to share, but they're not necessarily getting the right guidance on how to get them out there, or they're submitting to a competition like the Nickel Fellowship or a major competition, and they don't get any feedback, don't hear anything back. And I know I talk about screenplay competitions a lot, but it's more than that. It's the idea of somebody getting some notes that are just not very encouraging, making or building, not getting anywhere and building relationships in the industry. Going to events and not necessarily connecting to the people that you hope to who are gonna, an agent or a manager. You go to this event, you pay all this money, and you get there, and there's this amazing agent or producer, and you're like, I'm gonna talk to that person, I'm gonna pitch them my idea, and then you get there and you just don't even get a chance to talk to them. They're rushed off the stage, or there's 100 people circling them. So how do you get all that access? How do you connect to people? And when you don't enough times, it's easy to just say, well, I'm just no good at this. I'm going to give up. And that's the thing that I think the ISA is like, we're most proud of, is the idea of giving you encouragement. And I hope these videos help, because I hope in some way you're looking at this stuff and saying, all right, what can I do that can take me to the next level? And what can I do to get my dream to become a reality? And the irony being that the word reality to me is always kind of a pessimistic word, but the idea of taking a dream and making it a reality, that's the rare time that it actually feels like optimism. Because it's something I think a lot of us writers, we have this vision of writing this story that really impacts the world, that affects the world, that inspires somebody. Even on a small scale, even if it's not something huge, right? Even if it's not a major blockbuster or wins an Oscar. A lot of people see the Oscars, the Golden Globes, and Jordan Peele's up there winning, and it's like, I can write a Get Out, and I can get that film made, and make this incredibly marketable film that really has this important message. But you can't write that one. Jordan wrote that one. You have to write a script that is something personal to you. And I think that's part of the problem with a lot of people, a lot of writers, is that they try to write for what they think the world wants, as opposed to writing from what's truly inside their hearts and really conveying a message of importance from them, for them, to connect to people who will more than likely maybe not necessarily understand or have seen your perspective before, but will totally connect to it after they see the story you've written from a very personal place. And so when I hear of writers giving up, I feel like a lot of times the reason they're giving up is not because that they're not making the right connections. It's possibly because they haven't written the right words. They haven't written the right story, and they've written it for the market. They've written it for what they expect people are going to want from them. And that is the wrong direction. It really is. Even with notes that you get from some people, you don't want to take on notes that are from people who have very strong opinions about how you should write for the market, or how you should guide your story and make it very commercial. I think what you need to do, like Greta Gerwig did, she wrote out 350 pages for Lady Bird, and then she cut it down to tell a really nice personal story for her. She took the best of it and told that personal story for her. That's what writers should be writing. Not Greta Gerwig's story, your story, the story that means something personal to you. Because the only way those words on the page are going to mean anything to someone reading it or eventually watching it is if you the only way it would be real to them and honest to them is if you make it honest when you're writing it. If you tell the truth, if you're vulnerable, and if you're very honest. And that means diving into your characters in more than just your perspective, your main character, like getting into the heads of the other characters, which is a whole other conversation. But obviously, what I'm trying to drive at here is that if you want your dream of becoming a produced screenwriter, if you want to connect to producers, you want to connect to agents, you want to connect to managers, and you really want to affect the world in some way, don't write for what you think the world wants. Write something that is very personal to you. How do you see the world? It doesn't matter what it is. For Greta Gerwig, it was this particular story, her relationship with her mother, that she turned into this amazing film. But even if you don't direct it, you should write that story, whatever it is, your personal relationship with your family, your something that happened at work that might be funny, but from your perspective, some sort of adventure you went on, and then of course you got to enhance it a little bit, necessarily, if it's not necessarily a super big adventure, but you can make it something really exciting if you get really gritty and honest about what you were experiencing when you were experiencing it. So I think when a lot of writers are told to write what they know, don't confuse that with, well, I'm a mortgage banker and all I know is mortgage banking. It's really about how you relate to people in the mortgage banking world, right? What were some of the interesting stories and the things that you experienced while being a mortgage banker? You went to these parties and you went to these events and you met this girl and you had this experience. And what was that like? And can you make it funny if you're a comedic writer? If you're more dark and dramatic, then tell the story from that genre or tone, so that it's more sincere to your voice, to your words, because that's ultimately what every producer is looking for, is an original voice. Every story's been told, right? Every story's been told 100 different ways. But you are the only person who's ever walked in your shoes, period. No one else has ever walked in your shoes. That makes what you're trying to say very authentic. So don't write for everybody else's expectations of what you should say. Write something that inside you is how you see the world, how you view the experience, even if it's as simple as being a mortgage banker. A mortgage banker, which I used to be a mortgage broker, and that's why I threw that in there. But anyway, I've never written a story about being a mortgage broker, but I think maybe there's something in there. I don't know. I mean, I can find a little nugget that is authentic to an experience that I had in that world, and then I could write that story. And that's what you want. You want to find something that's really personal. You want to it doesn't matter if it's a mundane environment. If you tell it from an authentic place and you bring in, and you're deeply vulnerable and honest about what was going on in your experiences. And this doesn't have to be a totally true story. It doesn't have to be true. It just can be something you've experienced and then you enhance it. But my point is, big picture, again, don't write just because the market is expecting you to write a particular way. You're going to go try and copy Lady Bird. Write a story that means something specifically to you and bring your authentic being to it, bring your heart and soul to it. How do you see those characters going through life, and really incorporate your voice? Be honest with yourself. Look at yourself and don't be afraid. Just stand there and just give it your all. Not stand there, sit there and write and give it your all. Tell your characters from the deepest, most beautiful thoughts or dark thoughts or whatever thoughts you have in your head. Now, those are just a few of my thoughts sharing with you. So what I'm trying to say is that I don't want writers to be discouraged when they're not getting where they want to go. What I want them to do is really look at themselves and say, have I written an honest story from my viewpoint, from my worldview, from the things that how I've walked through life? Because if you're not writing stories from that perspective and you're writing them for the market, you're never going to get anywhere. You're never going to get anywhere. You want to write stories that are genuine to you. And when you write a story that's genuine to you, when people first read it, there's something about it they're just going to connect to. And that is the first step to breaking in, like one of the biggest steps. Obviously, you need to take classes, and you, even when you write from your authentic place, your perspective, you're going to need to hone the craft. You're going to need to improve the script. That don't, I hate the word reality. The reality is, if it was easy to write a great screenplay, the Oscar winners from last year would win this year, and on and on and on and on. But it's just not that easy. So it's doable, and you can find a place for your story, but you start with an honest, sincere, truthful story to you, like Greta Gerwig did. Say something that's really genuine, from your perspective. What is your voice? Know your voice. Learn your voice. When you sit and talk to your friends, how do you tell a story? Take that perspective and put that into your writing. Again, don't write for everybody else's expectations. Don't write to be the next George Carlin or Seinfeld or Frank Darabont. I'm saying all these older people. Don't write to be Damien Chazelle, who wrote Whiplash. Write what you know and how you see the world. That's where you begin, and that's how you break in. When you write something really beautiful for you, and people will connect to it because it's honest. Okay, so those are my thoughts on that particular issue. If you have any other questions or are interested in shooting me an email, please do. Craig@networkisa.org. Happy to answer your questions. If you have something that I can answer on a video and will be helpful to other writers, definitely shoot me an email. Let's work together to try to get as many questions answered as we possibly can to help other writers, because that's what we're about. That's what the ISA is about. It's about community. It's about working together. It's about inspiring one another. And hopefully this video is doing that for you. If you feel excited, you feel invigorated, please leave a comment down below, or get to writing and really hammer out that personal story so that we can hear your original voice.